Welcome to Happy Wife, Happy Life. We're your hosts. I'm gay Kendahl Landreth.
And I'm gay Jordan Myrick.
And we are two incredibly gay and unqualified,
but deeply gay and in love comedians who are here to help you with all things relationships.
And on today's episode,
we're talking
gay!
It's Pride Month.
We have a very special Pride episode for you today.
All right, welcome to
Q and Gay.
This is our Pride-themed Q&A episode with all gay questions.
Happy Pride!
Very exciting.
If you're not gay, consider this something you've done for the LGBT community this month is listening to our podcast episode.
Yeah, if you're not gay, tell 6 people you know about this podcast. Because it's not a gay podcast, but it's hosted by 2 gay people.
Yes. Who are married.
Almost.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion. Also, I've seen comments, people are like, are they married? Are they dating? Are they friends? I don't get it.
Kendahl and I do say married. I'll be like, my wife, and we're not married yet. We're engaged, but whatever. Get used to it.
I know. So we're so excited.
I know. I love Pride Month. I love the corny t-shirts that come out.
I love the attention.
I love attention. I love... It's nice, you know? Gay is in the air in June, and I like that.
Do you have any fun Pride memories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, we went to Pride together a couple years ago, 2 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. Actually, what is even a nicer memory than going to Pride itself is that we tie-dyed lesbian flag colored shirts and shorts with my mom.
And then we wore them to Pride.
And that was really fun and
really,
nice.
really fun.
That was really sweet. And then our producer, Blake, was in the parade and we went with his husband, Pat. So we got to go watch and wait for him. And then it was really cute. And then when he came by, Pat ran into the parade and they kissed and it was really sweet.
It was really, really sweet. Oh, wonderful. I'm always very sweaty during Pride.
Sure.
Very sweaty, very hot. So last year we didn't, what did we do for Pride last year?
Nothing. To me, Pride is like Halloween. I'm obsessed with Halloween, but I don't really do anything on Halloween itself in particular. I don't really dress up. I don't whatever. Yeah. I just kind of live the whole month in celebration where I watch horror movies. I go to haunted houses and themed sales where they sell Halloween merchandise.
You know what we should do this Pride?
What?
That reminded me when you said you watch movies that are spooky. You should let me read you my favorite book, that lesbian book for Pride. Delilah Green Doesn't Care.
Yeah, you can read me that. But Pride, I'm the same way. Yeah. We don't go to the parade that much because it's really crowded and really hot.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, parades nowadays, these days, parades, I guess they've always kind of been this way, but besides the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, they're pretty much just brands. So it'll be even
the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is brands.
Well, but they at least have in between it, it's still a brand, but they'll be this is themed after blue. Oh, I'm not wearing that shirt anymore. I was wearing a blue shirt this morning. At least the Macy's.
But that's a brand.
What?
Bluey is a brand.
Yes, but it will be but it's not sometimes at Pride, it will just be a person holding a sign that says Verizon Wireless on it. And you're kind of
sure.
Okay. And then it's the people who work at Verizon Wireless walking with it versus the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade will be Jimmy Fallon on a float that's themed after Charlie Brown or something.
Okay, I guess.
You know what I mean? It's all technically a brand, but it feels a little more oh, whoa. Versus sometimes parades will just be I know my local 4th of July parade in my hometown would be our fire department would walk by and then our middle school band would walk by and then the local candy store. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, I grew up going to Mardi Gras every year, so I'm very pro parade. And that's not particularly corporate.
Yeah. There's always a really awkward moment in our local, God, there's nothing like a local parade, a small town local parade.
Nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. Always said that because it is there's so much tension because a local parade, first of all, every single person in the parade.
Okay.
It's honestly embarrassing to watch it because why were you not invited to be in the parade? You know what I mean? It's so you're not involved in anything. Everyone is in the parades. Everyone's kid is in the parade. And every time I've been to a parade from my hometown, there's a point where the Republicans, the group of Republicans, I'm not going to say my hometown, but that Republican group walks through. And then the Democrats do it. They have a sign that says this town's Democrats, and then someone has a sign that says this town's Republicans, and watching people react, because most everyone is cheering for everyone else, but then when it gets to that, it really splits everyone down right the middle.
Wow.
Basically, like, you have to cheer who you vote for, which feels really wild.
I don't feel like I've ever been to a parade that had a political group specifically.
Oh, yeah. We always had that.
Wow.
We always had that. Anyways, today we're doing a Q&A.
Yes.
So we asked you on Instagram.
Yes.
What your questions about being gay were? What is it?
We asked for gay questions. And I left that up to interpretation. I said, hey, ask us gay questions for our Q&A, and that's up to you.
So if you ever want to ask us questions, make sure to go to our Instagram. We also have an email you can email. That's in our Linktree on Instagram. Or a Patreon. There's a lot of different avenues you could ask us questions.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Hit me with it.
Did you guys ever have to, quote unquote, accept the word lesbian?
Not for me. I don't know about you, but I always identified as a lesbian and felt good about it. I think I was lucky. There was a lot of there's a lot of feelings around, I feel like, the word lesbian, and a lot of things that come with being gay that I just didn't have because I don't feel like it was really talked about in my hometown. So I felt very just like I had no thoughts about the word lesbian other than the literal definition of what it was.
Sure.
What about you?
I don't feel like I necessarily had to accept the term lesbian. I identified as bisexual for a really long time. I think just because I wasn't really around that many queer women and non-binary people. I was around a lot of gay men, but not really a lot of queer women and non-binary people. So I think for a long time I dated men because I was just like, oh, they're here and
they always are, aren't they?
But I was like, they're here, and I don't hate it. I think I had seen a lot of representation of lesbians in media. And just for reference, I'm 31. So just to kind of give people a reference of like the media that was around when I was in like elementary, middle, high school, whatever. I feel like the representation of lesbians was always that lesbians hate men. And the idea of having to go on a date, kiss, whatever, a man is the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to you. And that's just not how I felt.
Yeah.
But now as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, to me personally, like being gay is just like, sexuality is not a choice, obviously, but I do think there is a certain element of like who you are interested in pursuing a relationship with. And I think like, yes, there's a world in which like I could have sex with Dev Patel because he's a extremely handsome celebrity who seems nice.
Yeah.
That being said, I am not interested in pursuing relationships with men.
Yeah.
So that's why I identify as a lesbian.
Yeah.
But I'm also very flexible and open.
Well, that's interesting news for me.
And I would love to meet new people. No, but I'm just like, if tomorrow you were like, I'm a trans man, I've realized, and it makes me uncomfortable for you to identify as a lesbian, I'd be like, okay, cool. I will identify as queer or whatever. Like, I just don't feel, I don't feel that strongly connected to gender or sexual labels in general.
Well, it's always very, it is hard when you start opening up your mind to gender and like start thinking about what is gender and why is all and blah, blah, blah. And then you start to like, you know, for me, feel almost more gender fluid. Then you do start to have these moments of like, what is a lesbian? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think there is this, you know, there are people who identify as non-binary, but if I was, and I am attracted to people who are non-binary, but where does that, I don't know, it starts to become a little more complicated.
Yeah, and I know that like there are people who have different feelings about different definitions of lesbian
Totally.
and whatever. And I think to me, it's just someone who is not interested in pursuing relationships with men. But that being said, I think, yeah, kind of like if I really had to nail down what's most important to me, I think just like a sense of like queerness, both in gender and sexuality. Totally. But I think the lesbian community is really cool and really vibrant, and that's always felt very appropriate for me up until this time.
Totally.
So yeah, I never had to accept it, but I think kind of being like, well, what does that mean to me?
Well, I know there's some people who are like, don't want to be called that word.
Yes, and I've never had that. I think that's weird and bad.
Do you know why?
I think people...
Because I don't.
I think people think lesbian sounds bad and like gay sounds cool or good.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think it's probably tied to like, I don't know, like a lot of misogyny and also like hypersexualization of lesbians and things like that. I'm sure there's like a lot that goes into it, but I personally have never struggled with that word.
Cool.
And I don't think you should.
Me neither. All right, next question.
I love that. What do you wish you had learned from your parents when you were a child? I'm a new mom.
Oh, wow. What do I wish I learned from my parents? That's I have never really thought about that in my life. Do you have an answer?
My parents are great parents, and I learned a lot from them. I think I wish I had learned how to cope with my anxiety better. I have generalized anxiety disorder. As an adult, when I look back, I clearly have always had it and really struggled with anxiety at the time. But I think it was just different. I think mental health stuff was talked about differently in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I've always been very quote unquote like high functioning. Like it's never negatively affected me in school or in making friendships, but I struggled with it personally a lot. I also think it's hard because I'm like, well, how much did I actually share that with my parents? What did they know? So I don't
that's like when I was growing up, I had severe OCD, but it's like I kept it very inside of myself. So it's hard. People wouldn't have known that as much. If it was harder for my parents to be like, it wasn't like I was screaming at them like, I have OCD, and they were like, well, I don't care.
Shut up. Yeah.
It wasn't like that. Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess maybe just like openness about mental health stuff.
Sure. I'm sure a lot of people our age can relate to that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people from every age can probably relate to that.
Yeah. I think it's hard. I feel like I learned a lot of really great stuff from my parents. I also think anything that was like, I think there's a lot of things in my childhood that maybe at the time, I don't want to speak for my parents, but I feel like maybe at the time they were like, oh, I wish this wasn't going this way. But I ended up learning a lot from those moments. So I wouldn't change those things. I think what I would say, maybe I'll think about this later and be like, no, but it actually was good because of XYZ. But I think there was a lot of like, I had a really hard time in school, like a really, really hard time in school. And now looking back, I have some learning disabilities that were undiagnosed and I have very severe ADHD. So it all makes sense to me now. But school was very upsetting for me. I was a straight-A student all through middle school. But a lot of that was because of my mom. Because she was so supportive and wonderful and was like helping me through all of this. But if I had had no supportive parents, I would have been failing every single class. I could not pass a test. I could not remember to bring my homework. I could not remember. I just felt so out of control.
You couldn't read.
I had a hard time reading. And I can read words, but I could not comprehend anything.
Yeah.
So it was very confusing because I would do the homework. I would read the book I was supposed to read. I'd go to take a test on it. And the question could be as simple as what's the job of the main character? I wouldn't be able to tell you. So it was very confusing for me. And I think I felt really like the only point is to get a good grade. Like the only point is if I can, in the end, get a good result, which I do think I did learn from. I think I am very much like a work smarter, not harder type person. Yeah. I think I'm very much like, it doesn't really matter as long as I get to point B sometimes, which helps me in certain aspects of my life. But I do think there'd been a little like, I don't know from who, maybe even my teachers, because my parents weren't people who were like, if you don't get an A, you're grounded for the summer. Like that was not the vibe of our house. But I think I wish there'd been more like the journey is what maybe we need to
The journey is
on.
The learning.
The journey is the learning.
Yeah.
And the grade doesn't really matter, especially in like middle school, whatever. And a lot of that is I put that on myself. Like my parents were not like, you need to be a straight A student. I was like, I need to be a straight A student. I don't know. And I think that's, maybe a deeper issue where I felt like a bad kid because of, now going through therapy, I think I felt like such a bad kid because I was not good in school. So I really wanted to prove that I was a good kid that cared. And maybe part of it was that I was also closeted and gay. So I also was like, I got to be an extra good kid because now I'm gay and suck at school. And those are the two things that bad kids do.
Bad kids. They can't read and they're gay.
And they're gay. Because even like in high school, it's like my parents were not overly like, don't do drinking or drugs. But I just never did because I think I was so like, even though I try to be a good kid so much, I'm just inherently a bad kid because I can't do school very well and I am gay. Whatever. I could go on and on. But I think, I wished in school that I had just focused on the journey a little bit more and it mattered less what was shown to the public.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another thing where like a lot of people would agree with that.
Well, because I think we're getting to a place, I don't know if it's because of social media or what it is, but I think people are so much more open now. And I think when I was growing up and when a lot of our parents were growing up, it was really like, oh, well, don't let the neighbors hear that. Don't let people know that you have feelings or that your house sometimes gets messy or things like that. And I think we are at a place where it's kind of like, no, it's okay. I would rather, like, I think if my kid was in school, I would be like, oh, I don't care if they get a bad grade. I just want to know. I'm like, oh, that's good for me to know you suck at math. Now I can have you get some extra help. Versus I think it was really hard to identify where my learning was going wrong because I was kind of, my parents were doing the most to make sure it seemed like I was doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How do I get over my fear of girls because they are just so precious and wonderful, unlike men, parentheses, I'm bisexual. I will say, no hate to this person. I think you have to stop saying things like that. I think it's bad, and I think it's infantilizing to women. I think it societally is bad to perpetuate this thing that women are good and men are bad. And I also think it's putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on you.
Yeah.
Because women aren't good and men aren't bad. There's a lot of bad women. There's a lot of good men.
Yeah.
There, like that's just not a thing. And there are a lot of studies that show that domestic violence is much more prevalent in the lesbian community than people realize because there are these concepts of like women are good and men are bad. So the bad things that happen in relationships, men do those bad things. So when you take men out of relationships, the relationships are just the good things. And it's like, no, women can perpetuate domestic violence. Women can be manipulative. Women can be bad partners. Everybody contains multitudes.
Yeah.
And
I think it's about really decentering men too, because it's like, you're not queer because you dislike men. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who are straight who dislike men. You know what I mean?
I would argue that there are more straight people that dislike men. More straight women that dislike men than queer women.
No one's ranted to me about men the way a straight woman has. You know what I mean? Which makes sense. But I think it is like, men, if you want to date women, men don't need to be a part of, you don't need to be dating women because you dislike men and you don't, and I understand this feeling of like, which I think is from our society and the way movies are and the way TV is, that it's like men are dumb and they'll date anyone that can, that has a brain, and it's like, that's not, or doesn't even have a brain, you know what I mean? And I don't think that's true. I think there are men like that. I think there are women like that. There's shallow men, there's shallow women, and not to sound like I'm like, a meninist. What do they call them?
Meninist.
It's like feminist.
A meninist. Yeah.
A meninist.
Isn't that what it is?
I don't know.
Like a male feminist?
A meninist, I think is what it's called.
Meninist. Sounds like Mennonite.
Yeah. It sounds like a superhero.
Whoa, okay, wait.
The meninists are coming. But I because it's not about that. I think it's just about not having men even be a part of that conversation. Like if you find a woman that you like, then just treat it the exact same as you would treat dating anyone else, because there's a lot of information you need to collect. Trust me, there are people I've dated, there are women I've dated that are not precious. They are evil.
Yeah. Well, and
you need to be thinking of it as like, I'm trying to date someone.
Yes.
So like, I need to like know how you are as a person instead of coming in with this like feeling of just pure
openness. I think you need to go into a dating situation open rather than being all girls are perfect angels, because then it's like you are going to get yourself into a bad situation. And also like, you don't think all girls are perfect angels. Like, you know, a lot of women you probably don't like.
Well, and if you're finding, to give some advice to this person, well, this is all been advice, but if you're finding that you get more intimidated by women in the dating scene, you could also chalk it up to the fact maybe you haven't done it as much.
Too. Practice makes perfect.
And so if you're finding that, though, the people who are really sweet and really nice people, I'm always like, nothing to be nervous about. Like, really, because I've dated people who are maybe not as nice or not as patient or whatever, and there are moments where it's like I send a text and they're like, that's too much, or like, you're texting me too much, or like I say something on a date and they're like, that's weird. But it's like someone who's really sweet and nice, you'll find out by not having to be nervous, because you can just say whatever and normal things, normal things, and they will be excited and accepting but you can't know if someone's precious and sweet and perfect until you start talking with them.
So that's my thing, though. I think you have to, for me, I'm very much like fake it till you make it. And I think the first step in this is stop perpetuating that rhetoric, both to the public, but also in your own mind.
Yeah.
Stop being like women are precious angels and men are stinky. Like that's the kind of stuff I hear a lot. And it's like, no, you can date a really nice man. You can date a really terrible woman or non-binary person.
Yeah.
Like,
who can be sexist? Like, that's the thing, too. It's like,
yes,
I have dated women who are super misogynistic.
And
I've dated
racist
yes, like you
and
can
transphobic.
Yes.
Like, there are so many bad women and non-binary people, just in the way like there are so many bad men. So if you're intimidated to date women, I totally hear you and I get that. And I think especially once you kind of incorporate sexual stuff into it, that can, if you're new to it, add a lot of anxiety. But to me, the first step is stop putting women, quote unquote, as a gender on a pedestal and start just being like, I'm looking for people to date. And I want to be open to the positives and the negatives of people. Because I think one thing that's so awesome about being bisexual is that you are attracted to all different types of people, all different types of genders.
I have one question for you.
Please.
Do you think I'm precious?
Yeah. I'm not saying no women are precious.
I know what you're saying. I just wanted to hear that.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just like, you have to stop doing that to yourself because you're psyching yourself out. But even more importantly, in my opinion, you're going to get yourself in a scary situation. Because
rose-colored glasses are never a good thing in any situation. So it's like, you have to see people for who they... And I think it can get really like, yes, there is truth that men go throughout the world, like straight white men go throughout the world in a way that other people are not able to do.
Sure.
And so even if you're dating a woman that is misogynistic, it's like, yeah, well, in a roundabout way, it's very different because this person is misogynistic in a way that's like harmful to them and it's probably coming from XYZ. But it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
You don't want to
date that person.
Yeah, we're not trying to write an essay on this. It's like you just don't want to date a man or a woman or a non-binary person.
And
who's
I can
like
tell you,
bad.
I have been in a relationship with someone, and I dated someone who I think, when I was early on dating women, that I made a lot of assumptions about this person because they were gay. And you think, and I wouldn't do this now, I think just as I've gotten older, politics are more of a prevalent part of my everyday conversation, but at 18, they were not as much. And I dated this girl for like 9 months. And then I remember we got on a topic of something that is very important to me. And I just realized we never talked about it. We deeply did not agree with each other. And I will tell you, I don't follow her on Instagram anymore, but she is still we would not be doing well together now because we disagree so deeply on such moral things that are important to me. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, a lot of that is on me. The fact that I made so many assumptions about how she felt about all of these things because she was gay. And I felt like I didn't need to ask in a way that I would have never done if I was dating a man. If I'd been dating a man, I'd been like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about abortion? What do you think about...
Because she's a gay woman, you're like...
She's liberal.
You and me are girlies.
Yeah, we're girls. You must care about women's rights. You must care about, but nope, not necessarily true. And so I not that situation was dangerous to me, but also I'm very privileged. So I think I'm just saying it's really important to check in.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Tips for enjoying Pride alone.
Oh my God.
I love that. I think a really great one, and I don't know if you're trying to be alone or if you just happen to be alone, but I love in any situation where I want to meet new people, a conversation starter outfit piece.
Oh.
A funny hat. Not okay. Wait, let me.
This is actually horrible advice.
No. Let me clarify. This makes it sound like I'm like, wear a huge fedora to Pride, which is not what I'm saying. But I'm like, I wear a lot of like baseball. Like I have a baseball cap that just says Hollandaise on it, and a lot of times when I wear that out, people will be like, "Did your hat say Hollandaise on it?" And I'll be like, "Yeah," and they'll be like, "That's so funny." And then we'll like chat a little bit, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I work in food, so I wear a lot of stuff with like, oh, what do you do?" Blah blah. And it's like a conversation starter, and I think it's so great, and especially if you're going to Pride looking to meet people.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if you wore a hat that said like the fourth member of Boy Genius, or if you wore a t-shirt that said like
Jordan's really pro merch for meeting people.
No, but I think it's a good easy thing that you don't necessarily have to like do a lot on your end to like work up conversation, like I just like whatever, any like weird, fun, quirky Mr. Potato Head is a drag queen, whatever. Like I'm like, you could wear a fun, quirky thing, and I think it's a good conversation starter. And I think that
you're so cute.
Is a fun. I think that's a fun, easy way to interact with people if you're alone at an event trying to make friends.
Totally. I think if you're trying to celebrate alone, because God, I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, you're getting an introvert and an extrovert's take on this.
Truly. I know, you're like, so if you're alone and you want to meet people, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, if you somehow find yourself in the perfect situation where you're completely by yourself for the entire month of June, this is what I would do.
Okay.
First of all, draw yourself a damn bath. But before you do, head on over to the bookstore. There are so many, and I'm going to force Jordan this month to start reading some of them. If there's so many good romance lesbian novels that are so cheesy, I would equate it to if you wanted to watch like Pretty Little Liars. Like it's just like little trashy.
Yeah.
Pretty Little Liars isn't trashy, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's just silly. It's like nothing bad is gonna happen. Yeah. Actually, Pretty Little Liars is a really bad example. A lot of people die in that show.
Yeah.
What am I trying to think of? It's kind of like the L Word, I guess.
Or like a soap opera.
It's a soap. It's just like a soap.
Yeah.
It's just like a soap. There's so many great lesbian novels, and I love to around the holidays because I love the holidays. I always buy a lesbian, sometimes a little smutty, a lesbian holiday novel. Really gets me in the spirit. So I would get a bunch of lesbian books and read them.
And they have them for gay men, too.
They have them for gay men. Honestly, now they're coming out with, there's so much representation. You can get, if you're non-binary, they have non-binary romance books I've read that are great.
I love that. That's
they
so
have
much.
Gay, pan. The one I just read, the one I just read, the leads, one is bisexual, one's gay. One of them has ADHD, one of them has autism.
There you go.
They're hitting everybody. They're getting everybody involved. There's so many good ones. If I were to recommend one, if you're like, I'm looking for a series, of course I got to do the Bright Falls series. Of course I got to do Delilah Green Doesn't Care. That's the best one. I'm sure you've already read it if you're interested in books like this, but they're just so relaxing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the biggest treat you can give yourself as a gay person, as anyone in the LGBTQ plus community, is a relaxing Pride.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, I don't want to force myself to do anything I don't want to all the month of June. I just want to relax.
Yeah.
Because guess what wasn't relaxing?
May.
Coming out.
Oh.
And May. This May was not relaxing. Yeah. Actually, that's true. This May was a hard month.
I also love to go, either if you want to meet people, go out, or if you want to be alone, get takeout from a queer-owned restaurant.
Oh, watch a gay movie?
Watch a gay movie.
What's like a gay movie you like? I feel like you don't like a lot of gay movies.
I like a lot of gay movies. What are you talking about?
Well, I guess you like a lot of lesbian movies. Do you like any lesbian movies?
Yeah.
You like a lot of movies with gay men in it.
Okay.
And I refuse to watch them.
I know.
Kidding. Just kidding. I'm not kidding. No, I just feel like
I don't like
Happiest
Cate Blanchett.
Season,
and I don't like Cate Blanchett, and I don't like Happiest Season.
I'm the only person on earth that liked Happiest Season, and I get
because
that is an opinion.
Because it was bad. Okay, we're getting too far off topic.
Have you seen The World to Come?
No, but I
don't watch it. It's really sad.
Yeah, is it bad or sad? Both.
I can't tell. It's fine.
Why did you watch it? Where was
I had COVID, and I was.
Oh, this was a while ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can have COVID and be horny as well.
Kendahl, please.
It was just like unnecessarily sad.
Yeah, that's
you were
all
just
of them.
like, fuck
That's my
movie.
problem with lesbian movies. I want a funny lesbian movie.
Have I pitched you my book idea?
Sense. What is it?
I'm not doing it on this podcast because someone's going to take it.
Okay, we'll talk about it after.
So embarrassing. I would pitch it. Everyone would be like, no, thank you.
As a bisexual homebody, how do I date? I feel like this is a good question for you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I was dating, I was less of a homebody because I felt like I had to be. I also lived in New York, so it made it a lot easier. But like I said, I would be much more likely to be out with friends and have people be like, should we go hit up a bar? And I'd be like, okay, sure, because maybe I probably won't, but maybe I'll meet someone I want to flirt with or whatever. So I think I had to push myself a lot more when I was single. But I also think that I'm in a relationship now, but I think if I was single now, I would be just a little more patient. Like I think I would, which maybe this is bad advice, but I think I just would try to not be like, I need to find someone now.
Yeah.
I think there is something very important to be said about setting intention. And like, I think if you're like, I don't care about dating and I don't want to date anyone, you won't find someone.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in the whole, like, when you're not looking, that's when someone will, because I do think finding someone you like and then pursuing a relationship with them and having a relationship that's successful takes a lot of intention, and like it doesn't just come to be. But I do think I would just be more like, you know what? I'll find someone at work. I want to join this club. Maybe I'll meet someone there. I'll go to the Renaissance Fair. But all these are going out. You do ultimately have to leave your house.
Yeah, I will say set yourself
But I would
up for
just give
success.
myself time. I wouldn't be like, I need to be going out every night of the week. I would just have a couple things throughout, the year. If you like reading, if you're a homebody, join a book club. It could even be on an online book club, whatever it is. Just like a couple things and try to be open during those couple things and be like, over time, maybe in the next 5 years, I might meet someone. If you really do not want to leave your house.
Yeah. I think you need to set yourself up for success. Don't be like, maybe I want to go on 5 dates this week and I want to go on dates that are all over the city and I want to do XYZ things that I would normally never do. I'm like, schedule one date in your neighborhood. You don't have to tell them it's your neighborhood. Schedule one date in your neighborhood and then be like, would you like to grab coffee with me at this coffee shop? That way it's like close to your house. It doesn't have to be that long, especially if the date's not good. Create like a buffer so it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's hard. Meeting people, you do have to leave your house. But I also think you can really work it in ways. There are going to be things you want to do that are outside of your house and you will meet people there, and just know that if you are a homebody and you don't like leaving your house, it is going to take you longer to meet someone, probably, and just accept that and don't feel bad about it. It's not a bad thing. It's just that's how you are. Someone who parties every night of the week, debatably, I would say that's also not I wouldn't say that's the ideal healthy lifestyle to party every night of the week. They're probably going to meet a lot of people they could date.
Yes.
But they also might not be able to hold down a relationship as well as you might, because maybe you have worked on who knows? There's so many like pros and cons to both sides, but just give yourself some more time.
Yes. I think that's great. Okay. I have a couple questions like this, so I'm going to ask one and maybe we'll ask another if it feels like we have a lot to say about it. Not really a question, but would love to hear y'all's thoughts on quote unquote not being queer enough.
I just don't. I think we don't surround ourselves. I don't hear about this ever. I don't think I've ever talked about this. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I am just like, what? I don't think of us, this sounds crazy. I don't think of us as gay, which is crazy. Obviously, I do think of us as gay, but we pretty much only are around gay people.
Yeah.
And I just don't think about it as part of our personalities. I don't think of it as something like the only thing that makes me gay is the fact that I'm attracted to women and non-binary people and that I'm engaged to you. I really don't think about it. It doesn't affect the way that I go about any aspect of my life. And I maybe unfortunate in this way, I never felt the need to prove my gayness to anyone, and I've never thought or cared about anyone else's gayness.
Yes. I think that quote unquote not being queer enough is a stupid concern because 2 reasons. Well, I guess 3 things. 1, that can't exist. You either are queer or you are not. 2, I think we've run into a problem in society at this point where we see queerness as social currency. I think especially, I'm sorry to say this, but if you are white, I guess I'm not sorry to say this. This is the truth if it's your first time hearing it. I think people are desperate for identity, desperate for community. I think especially if you're white, you want to separate yourself from feeling like the oppressor in a lot of ways. And so it's like, well, I'm not white, I'm pansexual is kind of like sometimes the vibe I get.
And it's like, no, you're actually
and
both.
It's like, yeah, you're actually both, and that's fine.
And they actually have nothing to really do with
Yes, absolutely. And I think, we, like I said, I think sometimes you can see queerness being treated as social currency, social collateral, whatever you want to call it. And I think it isn't great. It's not, being queer is awesome, but it also in a lot of ways can be irrelevant. And however much you want to incorporate it into your life is totally up to you.
But it's up to you.
And it's not up to other people in the queer community to validate you. Mm-hmm. That's not other people's responsibility.
And to be clear, we're not saying there's a difference between someone who's not validating you and someone who's being like biphobic.
Somebody who's invalidating you.
That. I think that sometimes gets mixed where it's like, where it's like, yeah, someone who's being like, you're not real and that's stupid and I hate you, or saying something that is offensive, that is invalidating. But there's a difference between just that and not doing anything. Like, I have never thought to be like, you're really gay, aren't you?
Yeah, like I don't really think about it very much. And I think, yeah, it's not other people's job to validate you, but it also, people shouldn't be invalidating you. So if you find yourself constantly invalidated by people, maybe you're around the wrong type of people. But also, if you're finding yourself not validated by people, that also might be normal, because
I don't need to be validated, but I often feel like me being a lesbian is really talked about.
Yeah, it's not really people's job to validate you in any capacity about anything. And that also applies to queerness. I also think that sometimes what people can see as a lack of validation can also be maybe just the reality of the fact that not all queerness is created equal. And that doesn't mean any queerness is better or worse than other queerness, but
it's just such a specific part of the experience. Every person is experiencing, which is like with anything. But I think there's a lot of people where it's like, you always have to be checking your privilege.
Yes.
And always be checking what aspect of this life we're seeing. And I think for us, it's like, we're both lesbians. We're together. We've been, we have been, homophobic stuff has been said to us before when we were out on the street walking hand in hand, but we also live in Los Angeles. We're both white.
Yeah.
We both, I would say, if we're not together and we're not holding hands, we very much could be considered friends. We very much, when I'm by myself, am not
seen as like straight passing.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it that it's like, even though I am like, I'm gay, I'm fully gay, I have so much checking of my privilege that I need to do. And I don't need to be the first voice or the loudest voice in any room by any means. I also, like, at this point, I'm financially stable. Like, there's just so many layers to it.
Yes.
So I think sometimes it's like, we don't all need to be validated equally.
And in the same way.
We both had very supportive parents. Like, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But I think you always, I don't think you always need to be told you are, like, I think it is not everyone in the community's job to be validating every single person, and just acknowledging that there are a lot of different experiences that we don't face, that a lot of people who don't face problems we have, it just goes on it.
Absolutely.
On and
yeah.
on.
When I identified as bisexual and still dated men, I wasn't less queer, but I didn't experience the same kind of treatment as I do now as someone who identifies as a lesbian in a relationship with another, like, woman/gender fluid person. That's just the reality of it. I was not less queer, but I also didn't get, like, spit on the street by someone else because I was bisexual, because I was, like, holding hands with a man. So it's very, like,
it has nothing to do with you being queer or not. It's like, you were fully queer at the time, and that has nothing to do. I think there's just, like, a reality check that sometimes needs to happen where it's like, why do you need this from me? I think sometimes, and that's in everything. Sometimes I think people get a little like, when it's talking about being queer, but about anything. Like, if I had insecurity that I was a bad person and I was constantly like, am I a good person? Am I a good person? It's like, what do you need from everyone? Like, look inward and get something from yourself.
Yes.
And it's also different from people who are, like, in your direct circle. Like, I think that if you have friends who are like really close friends and you want to express some feelings of, like, wanting to be validated in your sexuality, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly talking about, like, people on the internet being, like, mad at other, you know what I mean? Where they're just in general mad at society or whatever it is. I think it's very complicated. And I think but everyone has, in every community has their things that are hard and easier, and you just have to be aware of those things.
Yeah. But I also think in any marginalized group, the people who need help and access the most are the people who should be getting the most attention. And sometimes I see white queer people
100%.
getting upset that maybe they're not seen as, like, quote unquote queer enough. And I'm like, no, I think maybe you're just not, like, centered in this thing. And I think white people as a whole are very accustomed to being centered.
Yep.
And
totally.
I think that's something to look at and be like, yeah, you just might not be the center of this thing because you don't need the most help, the most access, whatever. And like that makes sense and is actually a good thing.
You don't need any help. So nobody's like 100%.
Yeah. So I'm like, there's no such thing as not being queer enough. And if someone's treating you like you're not queer enough, they're bad. But also if you're worried about not being queer enough, there might be some internal stuff going on with you that I think maybe you could look into a little more. Totally. As I think everyone should, as I have.
I can agree with you more.
Thank you. Thank you. This is okay. So a little off this. This person says, "Hi, I love you. We love you too." They said, "I'm a bisexual woman who is dating a man who is the love of my life." First of all, we're so happy for you. We love that,
guys. I'm coming to realize in this Q&A, the bisexuals have flocked to this podcast.
Thank God.
Every question's been from bisexual.
I love that.
We love you.
How can I still express my identity in queer spaces?
I love it.
I think that is. I totally get this question because once again, I feel like I have a lot of insight into this because I did identify as bisexual for a very long time and I did also date men for a very long time. Thank you, Kendahl. And I think it can be so hard to feel like you want to express your queerness while also still being respectful of other people. Like was like, well, I don't want to bring my like straight cis boyfriend to a queer space because I don't want that to be seen as disrespectful, things like that. And that totally makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. I think the coolest thing you can do is be loudly and proudly bisexual. I think I see a lot of people in this day and age being like, I'm bisexual and I'm dating a man, but I hate him. And if it wasn't for him, I would be dating women. I'm like, I think it's kind of that still same like romanticizing and infantilizing women and non-binary people. And I'm like, I think your boyfriend should break up with you. Why are you saying such mean things about your boyfriend? Yeah. And I think there's a perception that maybe people who are fully quote unquote whatever gay might see you as less queer because you are in a straight relationship. You know, you're not straight, but you know what I mean? Like you're a man and a woman dating each other. You present as straight. I think there's fear that like maybe gay people see that as bad. So you need to be like,
there's
well,
like
I don't...
a lack of belief or something.
Yeah. And I'm sure maybe there are some people like that, but those people are pieces of shit. So you don't need to listen to them. But I'm like, just be like, I like this comment from this person I love. They're like, my boyfriend is the love of my life, or this man is the love of my life. I'm like, that's incredible. I have had so many bisexual women approach me and be like, I hate my boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, that's really sad. You should break up. And they're like, well, no, just like at parties or like I'll get comments or things like that. Being
that
like
a stranger on the street. I hate my
boyfriend. I hate my boyfriend.
I'm like, I think that person might have been asking for
help. No, but do you know what I mean? People being like, oh, I hate that I have a boyfriend. I hate that I'm attracted to men. And I'm like, why? That's awesome. That's awesome that you like so many different types of people and you're attracted to so many different types of people. Like, so I think embracing your queerness in that space is not worrying about proving that you're queer to other people. It's embracing the identity that you affiliate with the most. And I think that's really cool. And I think that can help you. And I think like...
And, sorry.
No.
And you don't need validation from everyone in a whole... Everyone in a space, because everyone isn't going to give you that, because just like any space, there are so many annoying people.
Yes.
And rude people and bullies. Like, I mean, like I have met gay people at a gay bar who I'm like, you're an asshole.
Absolutely.
And that is like anywhere. And it would be wild to expect anything different just because it's a group of queer people. So there are, I think it's like, if you came up to me at a queer bar, at a lesbian bar, and were like, I'm bisexual, I actually, and I don't mean this in a mean way, I would not care. Like, I would be like, oh my God, I love that. But I would be like, well, I assumed because you're here.
Yeah.
But then I would be like, fun, great. I like would have no thoughts after that. Besides like, oh, I'm excited to get to know who you are. Not to sound like cheesy, but I do think it's like, like if you ever ran into us at a bar, that would just be, we would accept you into the space because you're in that space and you're a part of the community. But don't spend time forgetting about those people that are validating to you and need the validation from these people who like wouldn't give validation to a tree.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the people who are validating you because you're spending your entire time in queer spaces trying to get validation from people who are biphobic. That's not like, they're never going to validate you. And also, debatably, listen, I've been in spaces where there's a group of lesbians that all they talk about is like, I'm a lesbian, and oh yeah, like who's better at eating someone? It's like, it's just like, good God, can you talk about anything else? And like when they're, you know, when you're young, that's different because you're like, you're getting into, or when you're newly out, I should say. But I met people who their whole personality is being a lesbian, and those are type of people that I'm like, yeah, if you were bisexual and you felt invalidated by them, I would just be like, don't spend time. I don't want to spend time with people like that.
Yeah, I think the crux of this whole episode is there are all types of bad people, and I think that's so important to remember. So find people you connect with, and like go to queer events, put yourself out there, meet people, join a local queer I don't know, softball team. Yeah, like whatever, like just put yourself out there and have fun and be like loudly and proudly you. Yeah. I think that's the most exciting thing that I experience when I'm meeting another new person, regardless of what their deal is.
Yeah, I think map it on to like coming out, which is what it is, but in the sense of like, you know, when I came out, there were some people that were not nice about it. There were some people who were really nice about it. And I just stopped hanging out with the people who were not nice about it. And I think sometimes bisexual people, from what I've heard, they accept a little bit more of like, well, it's normal to be like mean about being bisexual. And it's like, if you're bisexual, it doesn't need to be a statement on the whole community that they're all invalidating of you, because to my knowledge, that's not the case. But you can just take it as like, oh, I told that person I was bisexual and they said something really biphobic. Don't need it. The same way as if I came out as gay and someone was like, you're a sinner, I would be like, okay, bye. Like, I don't want to hang out with you.
Bad is bad, as they say.
And good is good.
How would you do a lesbian bridal shower / bachelorette with the same group of friends?
You know what's so funny? I was just talking about this yesterday with my best friend because he was like, can I throw you a bachelorette party? And I was like, yes. But we were talking about how it would work.
How would it work?
I said, I want to go to Vegas.
And I hate Vegas, so I guess I would stay home.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking about. I was like, how does it work? Because we usually, like, we have a lot of the same friends, but I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be, this is the night, your night of freedom.
Yeah.
That's so funny because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, what are you going to do in Vegas, Kendall?
I'm going to get fucked.
Yeah. All right. Have fun with that.
Weird, though. Isn't it weird? Like, I do feel like, I don't know. We were kind of laughing. We were like, we should make it just really stereotypical bachelorette where we all have like, we're drinking out of like penis straws. And it's just very like heterosexual.
The theme is
party.
like fake wedding.
The theme is like heterosexual wedding, I guess.
Okay.
Bachelorette party.
God, that's so gay.
I know.
To be like, the theme is heterosexual. I'm like, oh my God, gay people and themes.
I know, I love a theme, but I don't know how we would go about it. But I was just like, it is so funny because I do think there is this, like, traditionally a bachelorette party was like your last night of freedom.
Well, I know a lot of straight couples now that are even doing joint bachelorette parties.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it because I was like, obviously we both have a lot of friends. We both could do stuff without each other. I would not consider us a codependent couple. We both have a lot of friends and separate friends, and we do stuff all the time.
But we have a lot of overlapping friends too.
Yes, but I mean, I even feel like this week alone, it's like we've both been out to dinner with separate friends. I think every night this week, like we don't.
Yeah,
but
at
the same time, no, I know. But what I'm saying is, I think even that aside,
okay,
if I was in Vegas, I would be like, ugh, it would have been a little more fun though if Jordan was here.
That's so sweet. Yeah, so I think our answer for that is do whatever you want. If you want to do two separate things, because they have also like some people have really separate interests, which I think can be really cool too. So if one of you like loves bird watching and one of you is like obsessed with race cars or whatever.
It's so funny
and
to do bird watching my last night of freedom.
Gonna watch all the birds I can. But do you know what I mean? It's like whatever feels best to you is like,
well,
what
you
makes
don't
sense
love
to you.
Vegas.
No, I don't want to go to Vegas. So you and Chaz can go to Vegas together. But I don't even think that's your bachelorette party. I think you and Chaz can just go to Vegas together.
I know. Well, I was like, I'd have to fly Nicole out. Who listens to this podcast? She's always so I have to shout her out.
Let's end on a really practical one that I think is super important.
Cream cheese. I saw that on there.
Cream cheese is one of them.
Someone asked cream cheese.
Someone said cream cheese, and
I
said
yeah.
When going out in the sun all day, how do I stay comfortable and prevent chafing? Thank you for asking. As a world-class chafer myself, I have plenty of answers for you. First of all, there's a company called Mega Babe that makes an anti-chafe thigh stick. I've been using it for 100,000 years, and it has never failed me.
It makes you feel like a seal.
I'm obsessed with it.
Put
Mega
me
Babe.
On a dock.
Yeah.
I'm slipping, sliding around. Oi, oi, oi.
Is that the sound
That's
seals
an eel.
make? That's an eel?
Oh, shoot. A seal. Don't you feel like a seal when you put it on?
Yeah, it really is absolutely incredible, and we would love for them to just sponsor this podcast or maybe like send us some free thigh stuff because I be chafing out here. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I use that. Also bike shorts. Kendahl is the queen of bike shorts. Yeah. Bike shorts will keep you from chafing forever. Buy deodorant and bring it with you everywhere. Don't ever go anywhere without deodorant. And I should be clear, antiperspirant.
Oh my God! Can you
not
believe
just deodorant?
People these days
and I know,
still aren't using that all the time?
I know people will be like,
tell
it's
them your
bad
thing
for
that you do with the cotton pads.
Well, I had heard on the internet that if you clean your armpits with glycolic acid, before you put your deodorant on, it will help you not smell as bad.
It did give you a rash, but it didn't give me a rash, so I'm still rooting for it.
And it's only given me a rash one time. I have this weird thing where my armpits will get a rash once every 6 months to a year out of nowhere with nothing has changed, and I'll just get a rash and then it goes away
Jordan.
and it's fine.
I have never seen any person more than Jordan who goes to the doctor with this insane thing, and the doctor's like, I've never seen this before. Every week it's something new. It's some new thing that it's just like, remember last year? God, or it was this year, it was the beginning of this year. Jordan was about to get foot surgery. You were going through so many other stuff. You had all these things that were just like medical issues that were so random. And then your tooth, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What happened again? You may not want to share this.
I got like part of my tooth broke off or something. Part of like my tooth in the back of my mouth like broke off and then embedded itself in my gum, and then it was just like crazy.
And then the dentist was like, I've never seen this before. Let's give you a root canal, I guess, right? And then you like you went to get a root canal in there, and they were like, no, your teeth will just slowly fall out in chunks. And you're like, what's wrong with my tooth? And they're like, nothing. Sometimes this just happens. Like, it's just the medical stuff you go through. I'm like, I've never heard of this before.
And I take really good care of myself.
That's what's so sad about it.
Upsetting thing. I've been wearing sunscreen every day since I've been born. I drink 100 gallons of water a day. I eat a million vegetables at every meal. And yet here we are. Also, get a hand fan.
Yeah.
Blow it on your crotch when you need it.
Yeah.
Blow it right up your skirt,
and
down your pants.
Shower if you can every single morning, because I think there are times when I've been the sweatiest, and we're both pretty sweaty. Yeah. Where I've been the sweatiest, where it's like I wake up and I'm like, well, I don't need a shower. Just do it.
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
Ice.
Get up in there.
Cold shower.
Because sweating will never feel as bad when you're completely clean as it does when you're not.
100%.
In my opinion.
Ice cold shower.
Shower, and also
8 ice cold showers a day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I have these bands. I have these I forget what they're called, but they're a band that you can buy. It's like a headband if you're going to like work out. This wouldn't do
it's
for
a sweatband.
Oh, but it's like the specific brand that's not. I don't know. I really like it, but it basically like you leave it on. Like I do it when I go work out, and then I leave it on after I'm finished working out, and it like soaks up all the stuff. So when you take it off, your hair is completely dry, but also it is slicked back in a crazy way. It's not like you could go out to prom after you wear it, but it makes it to where when you're working out, sweat is not dripping in your face at all, which is really nice.
That's really nice.
Also, someone told me that you can get Botox in your head.
No, but I've always heard that once you get Botox somewhere, because you can't not sweat. So I've heard that if you get Botox to prevent sweating, the sweating starts happening somewhere else.
I can't imagine where else it could happen.
You don't really sweat on your upper lip or your lower back.
That's true. That's actually true. That is actually true. Thank you so much for listening today. Happy Pride.
Stay unchafed all month long.
Stay unchafed and bisexual.
Truly. We're going to make bumper stickers that say that. Stay unchafed and bisexual. I love that, Kendahl.
I appreciate all the questions. Once again, it's always very sweet because every question you send, I hope our advice is helpful, but at the end of the day, we just appreciate you being vulnerable.
And it's so nice to talk about stuff with other people.
I know, because, yeah.
It just feels so good to have you guys send in your questions, and Kendahl and I can talk about them and hopefully help you.
Because also, I don't know if this makes you feel better, but almost every question you've ever sent, I've been like, I've been there.
100%.
Well, I've never had a husband, but
I've dated men.
But the night is still young.
Yeah.
The night is still young, baby.
We're actually not doing Nicki Minaj right now.
Oh. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you again. And like and subscribe. And you can listen to this anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you again for Spotify for letting us film in your office. And follow us on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And keep sending us your questions. We truly love them.
Yeah. I think we might do a Q&A soon because we didn't even get to the email questions, did we?
No.
we didn't even get to the email questions, so we might have to next week do another Q&A. I don't even know what we're going to, but all I know, happy Pride. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon.
That is the most proud thing you can do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And Jordan, I just adore you.
Love you, Kendahl.
I adore you. I adore.
Oh, she's in a singing mood.
Thank you. Happy Monday.